Hello and welcome to Arise America. I'm Debbie Turner Bell. In the news today, a movement to bring back our girls. The demand for the return of more than 200 girls abducted in Nigeria. Also, the spread of polio is now declared an international health emergency. We take a look at what that means for people across the globe. And a possible anti-aging breakthrough, young blood injections that could be the key. We will have that and a lot more right now on Arise America.
From coast to coast, every culture, every angle. This is Arise America.
We begin tonight in Nigeria. There is heartfelt sympathy around the world for the parents of some 200 abducted teenage schoolgirls. Many have suspected the Islamist group Boko Haram of the April 14th mass kidnapping. Now the group has claimed responsibility. Boko Haram's leaders appeared on a video saying that his group abducted the girls and threatens to sell them. Meanwhile, protests have erupted in Nigeria. Mothers of the missing girls are demanding answers from President Goodluck Jonathan. And making matters worse, Nigerian authorities arrested a protest organizer on Sunday after she met with the president's wife. News of the arrest fuels anger with the government. Michael Olugbode is a reporter for the Nigerian daily paper This Day. He's covered Boko Haram's insurgency for 7 years. He joins us on the phone now from Maiduguri, Nigeria, with more on this story. Michael, thanks for taking some time with us on Arise America. Appreciate it. Are you there, Michael? Can you hear me? So let me just ask you this question. There might be a bit of a delay, and we'll work with that. I think the first question that so many people around the world want to know is why hasn't the government done more faster to get these girls back?
Everybody believes that the government is trying its best, but the best will not just be enough. Because this Boko Haram, they are hiding in a place that the army, the Nigerian military, has refused to go into. They believe that the Sambisa stronghold of the Boko Haram is dangerous to go into. They have been giving us stories that that place is inaccessible to here, and even on that, it is hard for them to go ahead after this Boko Haram incident.
Michael, we're having a little bit of difficulty hearing you. If you can speak up just a little bit, I'm going to try one more question. And that is, would you shed some light on what you've learned about the circumstances surrounding this kidnapping?
Can you repeat yourself again?
Can you give us an update on what you've learned about this kidnapping and the circumstances under which it happened?
The school was expected to be closed during the attack. The government of the state, the parents and the people of the town, they spoke to the governor of the state that the school should be left open because they believe that the governor was contemplating sending their children to be it's more dangerous than their town. So the governor, based on the argument, decided that the school should be left open. After some time now, the Boko Haram insurgents, they attacked the town and they were able to kidnap the children. 21 days after the
Michael, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please forgive me, but we cannot understand what you're saying, and we really want to be able to hear and understand your report. So we ask our viewers to forgive us for this technical difficulty. We'll try to get Michael back at another time where his audio is a better quality. And Michael, if you can hear me, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. Well, at this time, Shahara Jackson joins us here in our New York studio. She organized a demonstration at the UN last week to call attention to the abducted girls, and she's going to talk to us about why she did that. Welcome to Arise America. Thanks for coming in. So let's start with what you did. You organized a rally just in front of the UN. What motivated you? Why did you want to do that?
Well, I'm an educator, and I was at home on Wednesday night feeling very helpless, and I wanted to do something. I didn't want to sit in my house and lament on Facebook. I didn't want to just sign a petition. I wanted to do something. And so I reached out to a number of my girlfriends who are socially conscious, and I said, let's stage a march in front of the UN on Friday. And they said, okay, great, let's do it. And a number of people who I did not know started sharing the event that I created on Facebook. And over 3,700 people were invited, and about 65 showed up. And we marched from the UN to the Nigerian embassy.
What did you want to accomplish with that march, Shahara?
I wanted to inform people of this atrocity, and whether that meant 2 or 3 or 10 more people learned about this, then that purpose was fulfilled.
Now, how did you feel about the numbers that did show up? You said about 60 to 70 people.
I felt good. I had only told about 15 myself. And so I think that the power of social media really helped this to grow into something beyond what I even conceived.
Now, was this something that struck a note with you? Because it's horrific. You know, the idea of more than 200 young girls, I mean, these are preteen, young teenagers being abducted, and no one knows where they are. It's just absolutely horrific. But I wonder what your response is to the fact that the truth is a lot of mainstream media outlets ignored this story for a few weeks.
Well, I'm a little black girl from Brooklyn, and if something happened to me, I would want the world to know. And if something happened to 200 little girls that look like me, they should know. The world should know about it. And I think that it's an even greater atrocity that our news media is not covering this. It just speaks volumes to the value that's placed on young black and brown girls' lives.
As you began to, I know you said you wanted to do something beyond talk about this on social media, but tell me a little bit about what response you were getting as you began to organize this event on social media.
I mean, I've just been overwhelmed by the amount of support that I've received from Nigerian women living here in the United States, from my friends, from sorority members. A great number of my sorority members came out from Delta Sigma Theta, and we are social action. And so I'm just excited that a great number of people are learning about this atrocity, you know, just because of the march on Friday.
So many have become aware of it because of this hashtag that has gone viral, if I can say it like that, Bring Our Girls Back. Do you know who and how that hashtag started?
That was created by a sister named Rama, who lives in California, and we just spoke today. I reached out to her on Facebook because this now has spread across the world. So there are rallies that are happening all across the world, and she, you know, commended me on being the first to do a rally here in the United States. And, you know, I'm just excited about whatever contributions I can make going forward.
So what do you want to see happen next?
Well, I want to see each and every girl brought home safely. That's the first thing. I also want to see a higher value placed on the lives of young black and brown girls across our world.
Indeed. And you know, what's so compelling to me, particularly about this hashtag, Bring Our Girls Back, is the pronoun our. It's not bring the girls back, but bring ours. Why do you take ownership in these girls like that?
Well, I don't have children of my own, but I'm a former principal, and every child in my school was mine. And I think that it's important for us to really value the lives of our future, and our young people are our future. So if we don't take care of them, who will? They are ours.
I understand you're not a politician, you're not a pundit. You're just, what did you call yourself, a black girl from Brooklyn?
That's it.
I love that. But what do you think the United States' role should be in this tragedy?
Well, I think the United States first should be a little more vocal. I think that they should really consider meeting with the Nigerian government to push for some sort of intervention and negotiation with the Boko Haram so that our girls can be brought home.
All right. And again, that hashtag is Bring Back Our Girls for those who want to join the conversation. Shahara Jackson, congratulations to you. I commend you for putting action to your passion.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Take care.
Now, here in the United States, firefighters are battling a blaze in Oklahoma that's now 75% contained. This has allowed about 1,000 residents to return home to Guthrie, which is 35 miles north of Oklahoma City. The fire started on Sunday and has consumed 2,400 acres so far. Authorities believe the fire began with a controlled burn that grew out of control. Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin said emergency crews are utilizing water-lifting helicopters, and she's asked the federal government to arrange for a large air tanker to aid the efforts. And the World Health Organization declared today that the spread of polio is an international public health emergency. This news comes as a man hospitalized in Indiana with the first U.S. case of the deadly MERS virus is improving. Dr. Stephen Morse joins us. He is an epidemiologist and virologist with Columbia University School of Public Health. I spoke with him earlier. This is what he had to say. Okay. Dr. Morse, thank you so much for coming here to Arise America. You're going to talk about two very important diseases, polio and then something that's known as MERS. Let's start with polio. We've seen it reemerge in war-torn countries like Syria. Now it's spreading beyond those borders. Why is that?
In many parts of the world, polio has been eradicated and isn't really circulating in the human population, but there's still a number of places where it is, and most of the virus circulation, most of the virus that's actually going around isn't causing disease in most cases. It's in contaminated water, usually contaminated with sewage, or sometimes by food handlers or other similar sources. It's shed in sewage, and if the water is not properly treated, then you can see the possibility of people contracting polio or getting infected. This is happening in a few parts of the world. It's been circulating in the Middle East without any disease for a while, and of course in some other places where there hasn't been effective immunization, unfortunately.
And that leads me right to my next question, and go, is this a matter of not being able to get, because there is an effective vaccine against this virus, is not being able to get the vaccination to certain areas of the world?
Well, part of it is that, in fact, there are places where people are not getting immunized for various reasons. They don't want to, or they think it's bad, or they think it's not necessary. There are certain parts of the world where, for various reasons, political, religious, or others, they're not getting immunized. In places where polio has been thought eliminated, like the Western Hemisphere, like even the Middle East, where it's been gone apparently since, as a disease, since the mid-1990s, about the same time we eliminated it here. There's been obviously less apparent need or feeling that there's a need to immunize. So right now there's a lot of effort to immunize people in the refugee camps coming from Syria, and hopefully that will help to stem the tide there. But of course, in Syria itself, that's a really serious humanitarian problem, and it's very hard to get vaccine to people.
Absolutely, where the civil war is raging on, going into its fourth year. Now, of course, the reason we're talking about this today is because the World Health Organization declared the spread of polio an international public health emergency. So that means this is very serious. Assess the risk, if you will, for it really becoming a global crisis.
Well, I think one thing is that we were in the process of eradicating polio, that is, eliminating it completely as a naturally occurring disease. And although that seemed like something of a reach, it was feasible. It was possible technically to do it because we have a good vaccine. It's only in human beings, and it's spread largely by contamination of water, not having adequate sewage treatment, not having pure water to drink, and of course, not having immunization. And so all of those things seemed achievable, at least immunization. And obviously, we're sort of backsliding quite a bit. We've lost quite a bit of ground in this particular effort. Some countries, I think, like the United States, that are watchful for this and that have been generally immunizing pretty effectively and continue to, will obviously step up efforts. So I think it's less of a threat to perhaps the United States, although anything is possible if we relax our vigilance. At the same time, it is a threat to many other parts of the world that aren't yet, really able to deal with these kinds of outbreaks as effectively.
And that helps us turn then the corner to talk about MERS, M-E-R-S, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. And we've seen our first case in the U.S. A man traveled from the Middle East to the U.S. Let's remind people or tell people exactly what MERS is.
MERS is a virus that is somewhat related. It's separate from, but similar in some ways to the SARS coronavirus, the one that was so famous in 2003 for that outbreak that spread throughout the world, but started essentially in China and then went to Hong Kong, and from there to places like Toronto and many other parts of the world, including much of Asia, and caused a lot of trouble until it was stopped. So that largely involved transmission through close contact, family members, and through healthcare workers. So what probably happened in Toronto was largely the result of the fact that healthcare workers were not being as careful about what we call infection control, the protective measures, masks, gloves, hand hygiene, washing your hands, and so on, and all the other things that we would normally consider to be essential in a hospital like those in Toronto or in America. In developing parts of the world, obviously, the resources are much more limited, and it's much more difficult to have the same kind of infection control, but I think it's absolutely essential for healthcare workers who are at the first line of risk there, to be, as well as the first line of defense, to be mindful of these possibilities. MERS is a little different in that, first of all, it's from the Middle East. Secondly, we know that the virus that is the MERS virus also originates in bats. We think that's very, very likely. The SARS virus originated in bats. Those are the kinds of animals that naturally carry the infection and really don't show much illness from it themselves. There is some suggestion here that camels are also involved. So camels can become infected. Whether they're actually a link to human infection or whether it's something else is still not clear. But right now, it's been largely, the original cases have been largely limited, in fact, entirely limited, to the Gulf area and to travelers coming from that area.
What's the mortality rate with MERS? How dangerous of a virus is it?
For those who actually show the disease, it's been about 25% mortality now. There are a little over 400 cases with about 113 or so deaths that are recorded.
And that is indeed significant. Now that we've seen this one case in this man who is from, I believe he's from Saudi Arabia, if I'm not.
He came from Saudi Arabia.
Should we be concerned in the U.S.?
Well, I think we learned some lessons from SARS, which is a parallel. I wouldn't obviously push the analogy too hard, but it's the best analogy we have. And there, the important thing is obviously for anyone who comes in close contact with the patient, to make sure that they themselves watch what they do. If they're going to be in contact with the patient, family members, healthcare workers, not just casual contacts, then they really should be using infection control measures, such as same as you'd use for the flu, basically, but very strictly, because there's obviously a danger of person-to-person transmission. We have seen that. Casual contacts, if you're in the same airport or something, or the same city, are probably not in real danger, but I think when people if they start to feel sick, they'll go into the hospital or they'll call their physicians. At that point, I think people need to be, the healthcare workers need to be especially aware of it.
Yeah, something to keep your eye on. We'll have to stop it right there. Dr. Stephen Morse, thank you so much. And in business news, Target's chairman and CEO stepped down from both roles on Monday. The retail giant named Chief Financial Officer John Mulligan the interim chief executive. This move comes in the aftermath of a massive data breach that hurt the company's bottom line and triggered congressional hearings. The cybersecurity attack resulted in the theft of at least 40 million credit and debit card numbers, as well as other pieces of customer data. Overall, Target reported a 34% drop in net profit over last year. And Ford is recalling nearly 4,000 commercial versions of its F-Series full-size pickup truck. The gears could accidentally slip into reverse, according to the filings with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Ford said no accident or injuries have been reported in relation to the problem. And in an update, 2 circus acrobats were in critical condition Monday. 9 performers were badly injured Sunday after the rigging that suspended them by their hair collapsed, causing the all-female team to fall 40 feet to the ground. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration is investigating the cause of the accident. And sadly, a vintage airplane pilot performing acrobatic stunts died when his plane crashed upside down on a runway. He was performing a maneuver called cutting a ribbon. The crash occurred at an air show at Travis Air Force Base in California. And the United States Supreme Court delivered an important ruling today. In a 5-4 decision, the High Court upheld the constitutionality of opening government meetings with prayer, even if the prayer is overwhelmingly Christian and citizens are encouraged to participate. The court's conservative justices based a large part of the ruling on the history of legislative prayer dating back to the framers of the Constitution. The case involved the New York town of Greece, where the city council regularly opens its meetings with a prayer delivered by someone in the community. And still to come on Arise America, the latest on the seesaw drama of Ukraine, plus new evidence that students of color could benefit from more diverse teachers. Also, a record-setting Olympic gold medalist, Dara Torres. Dara Torres joins us in the studio. We'll be right back. We turn now to Ukraine. The situation grows even more dangerous as the region edges closer to the brink of civil war. Pro-Russian rebels shot down a Ukrainian helicopter near Slavyansk on Monday, and Kiev is scrambling to prevent the uprising from spreading to the southwestern port city of Odessa. Arise News correspondent Gunnar Willem joins us from Donetsk in eastern Ukraine. Gunnar, hey, it's good to talk to you. So just give us an update of what happened in Odessa and how far into the country, where exactly Odessa is.
Well, Odessa is to the south, about 500 kilometers from where I am. It's a port city, so it has a very large population, Russian population. The city has not really been touched by the fighting until now. What happened Friday afternoon after a football match, a soccer match, there was a fighting between pro-Russian fans and pro-Ukrainian fans, and they got into very, very heavy fights during the afternoon. There was also gunfire involved, and several people got killed. And then apparently the pro-Russians, they retreated into a camp they had set up, a tented camp, and that also got attacked by the pro-Ukrainians, who seemed to have been the more powerful group. And then finally they retreated into a building, which was then bombed by Molotov cocktails and set on fire, and more than 42 people were killed. And of course, this is the largest bloodletting since the Maidan uprising in February. So not only in Odessa, of course, a lot of tension. The next day, the pro-Russians, they basically stormed the prison, demanding that the people who had been arrested be released. And the police, they said they had no other choice than letting these people go, although they thought they were suspects in the previous days' violence.
Yeah,
and of course, what you see also over here in Donetsk, a lot of people have gone onto the streets and saying they want revenge for what happened in Odessa.
Meanwhile, there's great implications of losing control of Odessa, considering where it is. And as you mentioned in Donetsk, as I understand, you attended the funeral of a young nurse who was killed. Can you tell me what support is like for the rebels there?
Well, yes, it was in town of Kramatorsk, close to Slavyansk, where this nurse was killed. And what people then were saying there is, well, if you'd have asked us 3 days ago, not that many people supported the separatists. Now, after this innocent nurse who was trying to help people who were wounded in the fighting got killed by the Ukrainian army, now the whole town, as one person said, is now supporting the separatists. So it very much looks like when the Ukrainian army goes in there, and although they have been showing a lot of restraint, whenever they kill people, innocent people like that, which inevitably happens, then they actually lose what they're coming for, which is, winning the hearts and minds of the people. And that is very difficult to do with a tank.
Yeah, meanwhile, I understand you had an interesting conversation with a Ukrainian soldier. What did you learn in that conversation?
Well, I was talking to a major outside of one of the bases they had been setting up in order to encircle Slavyansk, and I asked the major how he could be sure about whether his men was actually loyal, and then he said himself he thought it was a crazy idea that he should go there and fight his countrymen who were ensconced, the rebels, just 5 kilometers down the road. He said we should all turn the tanks and drive to Kiev, and he said if he had the government in front of him, he would gun them all down. And this is very much a sign of that. A lot of the soldiers are simply not loyal to the cause. They don't believe in the government in Kiev. They say the government in Kiev is all corrupt. They're bought by Western money, and there's no way he wants to. He would rather disobey orders than shoot at his own people, as he said.
All right, Gunnar Willen reporting for us from Donetsk. Thank you so much, Gunnar. New studies have uncovered a diversity gap in public schools. While the student population is becoming more racially and ethnically diverse, their teachers are still overwhelmingly white. Many view this diversity gap as a problem and are calling for greater diversity among teachers. Shagun Eubanks is the Director of Teacher Quality for the National Education Association, and he joins us by phone from Washington, D.C. Shagun, welcome to Arise America. Thanks for coming on with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Break down the numbers just a little bit for me. Tell me what the racial makeup of teachers are and what the trend is for the diversity among students.
Sure. What we see among the racial makeup of teachers is a very consistent trend over at least the past 20 to 25 years of about between 80 and 85% of all teachers in America's public schools are white, and so that means about 15% or so are minority teachers. Our student population, on the other hand, is becoming increasingly more diverse, with a student population that gets more diverse each year, with now well over 40% of all students being students of ethnically or racially diverse backgrounds.
And why is this diversity gap significant? What's the concern here for you?
Well, we think that there are several concerns. One is, of course, just one that we believe is important, that our schools reflect the diversity of our nation, and that we continue to kind of help all students understand what it means to live and to prosper in a diverse society. All students need to experience that in school. We also find significant evidence that that students of color tend to benefit from a teacher population that is more diverse. The research is clear that what matters most is to have a great teacher. It doesn't matter what the race of a particular teacher is. If they're great, if they're culturally responsive, and if they understand the needs of the student, they will be successful. But the more diverse our teaching population is, the better that population of teachers is to be able to be culturally responsive to the needs of students.
And is that that point inversely true? You said that students of color benefit from diversity amongst teachers. Do students that are white benefit from diversity as well in the same way or in a different way?
We absolutely believe that while the data about directly linked to academic performances is less direct, but the data around social development, students being more culturally proficient. We know that when students enter the world in today's diverse world and diverse economy, they're going to have to deal with people from all different types of backgrounds. We find too often our schools are not reflecting the diversity that our students of all backgrounds are going to live in and work in when they leave school. So we need to do a better job there.
Well, and how do you do a better job? That brings up the great question, because the diversity makeup of the teachers is based on who chooses to go into the education profession and teach in the classroom. And so apparently not as many people of color are going into education. Can you talk about why that is and how you can address it?
Sure. There clearly are no easy answers, but there's a lot of good evidence that we can point to that very often young people of color, when they're introduced to careers in education, when they're exposed to it through future teacher programs and career academies in school, through recruitment programs in colleges, we can get more students of color to pursue careers in teaching. What we do know historically is that due to things like racial discrimination and in the workforce, historically, teaching was one of few positions that college graduates of color could enter. Now there are far more choices for college students of color, and we need to do a better job of recruiting them into our profession.
And is this
probably
just
more?
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Probably more significantly, of course, is we have to do more to get to increase the number and preparedness of students of color entering into college. Students of color are still underrepresented on a higher education campus, and so we need to do more to expand access to higher education for students of color and for students from economically disadvantaged communities.
All right, Shagun Eubanks. Thank you so much, Dr. Eubanks. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And this is Arise America. The murder trial of Oscar Pistorius continued Monday. The court heard testimony from a defense witness who was among the first at the scene after the 27-year-old shot his girlfriend, Reva Steenkamp. The witness corroborated much of Pistorius' testimony, which is that the shooting was an accident. Earlier, I spoke with Arise News correspondent Nastasia Tay, who reports from South Africa. I asked her for a summary of the witness's testimony.
Well, Johan Stander, this friend, was actually the very first phone call that Oscar Pistorius made after he shot Reva Steenkamp. So he was the first person that he told about even the shooting and said on that phone call that he thought that she was an intruder. Now, at that point, Johan Stander raced over to Oscar Pistorius' home. He says he found him there. He was broken and he was pleading. And one of the phrases he used in court was to say that he saw the truth that morning. He saw it and felt it. Now, he got quite emotional on the stand as well, describing the whole scene that he found at Oscar Pistorius' home. But during cross-examination, Stander mentioned actually using the phrase by mistake, saying that his friend shot by mistake, essentially supporting his story. But prosecutor Harry Nell had this to say.
Mr. Stander, please, let us rather just stick to the facts. Why? How can you, out of that call, say the fact that he shot was a mistake? How do you get there?
He thought she was the intruder.
Yes. He never said, I accidentally shot. He said, Johan, please, 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 come to my house. Please, please. I shot Riva. I thought she was an intruder.
That's correct.
Why do you now want to tell the court that he made a mistake by shooting?
Well, now, essentially, what Harry Nell is trying to get at here is the intent with which Oscar Pistorius fired those shots. So whether it was an intruder, whether it was Riva Steenkamp, it wasn't necessarily a mistake that he fired, and that he maybe didn't know who was behind the door, but certainly that he fired with intent.
And then also, Johan's daughter testified. Tell us what she had to say and the impact of her testimony.
Well, Carice Villian, now she's now been married, so she has a different surname. She also got very, very emotional on the stand. Now, she arrived at the home of Oscar Pistorius with her father. She found the door open. She was the first one, actually, to push it further open, to see what was coming down the stairs. That was Oscar Pistorius with Riva Steenkamp in his arms. And at that point, Carice completely broke down on the stand as she spoke about what she saw.
From the second that we walked into that house, he was frantic. When he saw us, he just kept on, Carisi, please, can we just put it in the car and get it to the hospital? And he just wanted to get it to the hospital, and I told him to no. Can you please? When he got it to the bottom of the stairs, I'm like, just put it down, so that we can just see what's wrong. I'm sorry, my lady, I apologize.
No, just don't worry. Just take your time.
Thank you. So I told him to.
You sure you can proceed?
Yes, I'm sure. Just give me a second. He was begging me to put in the car to take him to the hospital, and I told him.
Maybe you should just stop.
Just give me 2 seconds, my lady. I'll be fine now, I promise.
You'll be fine.
So maybe
just take a deep breath and have some water.
So after that, Carice went on to describe how Oscar Pistorius was praying to God the whole time, and they both tried to stop the bleeding. I believe she ran upstairs to grab towels from the linen cupboard, and when she came down, she found Oscar Pistorius and pleading with Riva as well, saying, please stay with me, my love, stay with me. Now, Carice really got very, very tearful on the stand, and then she says she stayed with Oscar Pistorius throughout that whole morning, trying to accompany him in the kitchen where he actually vomited after Riva Steenkamp passed away. She had to coax him to walk to the garage where police wanted to take forensic photographs, and because he was so traumatized, he didn't even want to walk past her body.
And Nastasia, we know that Harry Nell was able to sort of pin Johan Stander down a little bit by admitting that Oscar Pistorius did not say it was an accident. Were there any fine details that Harry Nell was able to parse out from Clarice?
Not entirely. I think really what we got out of Clarice's testimony was just how much Oscar Pistorius was trying to save Riva's life, and just how overcome with grief he was. Now, I think that in combination, both father and daughter really painted this very, very detailed picture of what happened at the bottom of the stairs. However, I think it's really important to recognize as well that this isn't something that the prosecution and defense necessarily disagree on. They both agree that he was overcome with grief and that he was feeling remorse, and what they do differ on is the origin of that. So the prosecution says he shot her, he meant to shoot her, and then after that he felt he was very upset about it, and then the defense says that it was an accident. One of the things that Harry Nell was trying to get at with Carice in cross-examination, and I'm not sure that he was entirely successful, was to say that even though Oscar Pistorius was very frantic, he was asking where the ambulance was, he asked Carice to try to open Riva's airway. By doing those things, he was showing that there was rational thought in that. Now, I'm not sure that he entirely got there. We did get the fact that it was an entirely frantic scene with everyone, not only Oscar Pistorius, very upset by the whole situation.
And speaking of which, very, very briefly, Nastasia, what was Oscar Pistorius's demeanor today in court?
Well, he seemed quite composed. We've just come back from a 2-week recess. He seemed very well put together, almost resigned when he arrived in court on Monday. He did he had a fresh haircut after this 2-week break, but he did break down in court. We've seen that countless times before, and today that happened as both witnesses got emotional on the stand, describing that scene at the bottom of the stairs, and that whole attempt at trying to save Reva's life, and hearing that she had passed on. He put his head in his hands and he sobbed. But aside from that, it was a much more composed Oscar Pistorius than we've seen in recent weeks.
And that is Nastasia Tay reporting for us from South Africa. It's time now to take a look at other news capturing headlines around the globe in our Arise News World Wrap. 20 gunmen in Pakistan attacked a NATO supply convoy Monday, killing 2 drivers and wounding 3 others. There was immediate claim of responsibility, but authorities suspect Taliban insurgents who have previously launched similar attacks. Also in the news, 22 migrants drowned in the Aegean Sea near the Greek island of Samos Monday. Greek officials say they rescued 36 people from the overcrowded boats that capsized, but 10 people remain missing. Officials have not identified the nationality of the migrants who were apparently attempting to land in Europe. And in Panama, officials declared opposition leader Juan Carlos Varela the winner of Sunday's presidential election. He won 39% of the vote, beating the outgoing president's preferred candidate by 7 points. Varela is currently the vice president, but had a falling out with the ruling party. And Thailand's revered king made a rare public appearance Monday to make the 64th anniversary of his coronation, to mark it rather. The 86-year-old monarch is seen as a moral authority in Thailand. His appearance comes at a time when Thailand is in political turmoil, as embattled Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra faces 2 key legal challenges that could remove her from office. And that is the Arise News World Wrap. Here at Arise America, we want to bring you news from a different perspective, and not just news, but analysis as well. Tell me what it was like growing up gay in Uganda.
I have suffered sexual violence, including that has been planned by my family to heal me from lesbianism.
To have somebody lead your child away in handcuffs is just not something that should be done to a 12-year-old child.
You called this Victims Advocate Group, this phone number, which is sponsored by the Catholic Church, correct?
Right.
And what kind of response did you get?
They told me not to make prank calls and it wasn't appropriate, and hung up the phone.
My God. Michael Dunn could go away for many decades. Is that enough for you?
No, it's not. The person that killed Jordan Davis has to be found guilty by a court of law in the United States of America.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is in Angola today, the final stop in a tour of Africa that began last week in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. Kerry praised Angola's leadership role in efforts to solve conflict on the continent. He also pointed out that Angola gave $10 million to Central African Republic to pay public works salaries, and has offered to help airlift future troops to Central African Republic. Kerry visited the Democratic Republic of Congo on Saturday, making several stops. He met with UN's Chief of Peacekeeping Operations in the DRC to discuss ongoing militia disarmament. He also visited a company founded by women that specializes in healthcare products. Kerry praised their achievement as an example of African entrepreneurs. And on Sunday, the Secretary met with President Joseph Kabila and urged him to respect constitutional term limits and not seek re-election in 2016. Now let's check to see what's making headlines across Africa today. Cameroon authorities accuse the Nigerian Islamist militant group Boko Haram of attacking a police unit in northern Cameroon. Officials say the assailant shot and killed a police officer in their successful attempt to free a detained member. And there's renewed fighting in South Sudan over control of a major oil field in Unity State. South Sudan's army launched a counteroffensive Monday to recapture the region from rebel fighters. Both sides are claiming victory in the battle. This comes days after South Sudan's President Salva Kiir told U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry that he's ready to have a face-to-face meeting with rebel leader Riek Machar. And Kenyan authorities are investigating a series of bombings over the weekend, which resulted in 7 deaths. On Sunday, bombs exploded on 2 buses in Nairobi, killing 3 and injuring at least 60 others. And on Saturday, attacks in Mombasa killed 4. Authorities suspect the militant Islamist group Al-Shabaab for those attacks. And that is the Arise News Across Africa report. In a trio of studies published Sunday, scientists reported that they reversed aging in the muscles and brains of old mice by running the blood of young mice through their veins. Dr. Richard T. Lee is one of the lead researchers of the study, and he's with Brigham and Women's Hospital and Harvard University. Dr. Lee joins us by phone from Cambridge, Massachusetts. Dr. Lee, welcome to Arise America. Thanks for being on with us.
Thank you.
This sounds like it could be exciting. First of all, just explain what was seen in this study when the blood of young mice was introduced into the old mice. What kind of effects did you see?
Well, the theory's been around for hundreds of years that there's something good in young blood, and by various methods, different groups have done this in different ways, by transfusions or by joining young mice to old mice to make Siamese twins. Then the old mouse can start to appear younger. So that has been a sign that there's something in young blood that really looks like it might be quite magical.
And as I understand it, there were some mice that, as you just mentioned, referred to, they were joined surgically. I wonder if you could explain a little bit, if we can take that, what that means. And then other mice were only given the plasma of the younger mice. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It's been an experiment that's been around for a long time of making Siamese twins, and so it is in essence the Siamese twin experiment. But in our studies, we didn't have to make Siamese twins. We could get similar sorts of effects by giving a protein that circulates in humans and mice and all animals. By giving that protein to older animals, then we could actually get the same sort of effect as being joined together with a young mouse.
And what do you think is going on here? As I understand it, this protein is called GDF11. What exactly is it doing, or do you know yet, that produces this effect in the older mice?
Well, we're working very hard on that. What we think is that in the first half of life, we all have this protein at a certain level, and then perhaps in the latter part of life, it goes down and it allows some sort of aging things to happen. That seems to be what's happening in mice. And right now we're trying to figure out if it also is happening in humans.
And as I understand it, the mice were able to run longer on a treadmill. They were able to solve problems faster. The older mice were, once they were exposed to this GDF11. How translatable is this to humans?
Well, it's definitely early, and obviously things in laboratory mice, it's a long way to humans, but it gives us a place to look in humans. We know that the protein is in human blood and that it has something to do with your how your heart does, for example. So it's a matter of doing lots of hard work to show how this system is relevant to whether or not we can do something about the kinds of things that happen in humans as we get older.
And I heard you loud and clear say that it's still very early on, but what might be some of the implications if you could achieve this effect in human beings?
It's sort of frightening because we're talking about changing the whole body, and in mice it seems to be for the better. You can daydream that some of the diseases that we get as we get older, that perhaps you could get one or more of them to go back in time. So diseases like heart failure or dementia, it's certainly something that we've been daydreaming about, that if we can understand enough that we can try to show that in humans we can turn back those diseases, then that would obviously be a wonderful outcome.
Back to the study with the mice, did you see any negative side effects or downsides to the effect of this protein or the younger blood in the older mice?
We have not yet, but anytime you're sort of changing the whole body, you have to really think that, keep watching and watching carefully with everything we do to see if we turn something up. We are just elevating the levels in the old mice up towards the level of the young mice. We're not even getting close to the levels that the young mice have. So
okay, I'm going to have to jump in there. I'm sorry, so sorry, Dr. Lee. We're out of time, but thank you so much. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. And now to a major development, to a story that we've been following and reporting to you. Cornelius Mike Anderson, who spent 13 years free from prison due to a clerical error, is now officially a free man. 13 years ago, Anderson was sentenced to prison for his role in the robbery of a fast food restaurant. But somehow the order never arrived and he never got incarcerated. Since then, he has started his own company and raised a family. When the error was discovered, he was put in jail, and the case received international attention. After the judge ruled that he goes free, Anderson, who is now 37, left the courthouse with his wife and 3-year-old daughter on one arm and his mother on the other, and they all, as you might imagine, had tears in their eyes. And you're watching Arise America. Many people know 5-time Olympian Dara Torres as the fastest woman in the water. Now she's using her swimming skills to inspire a new generation to dive into the pool. We were so happy to speak earlier with the 12-time medalist right here in our Arise studios. Dara, welcome to Arise America. Thank you so much for coming in. And the first thing I have to say is congratulations.
Thank you, Debbie.
On your outrageous success. I mean, looking back, you're 6 years out from your last Olympic competition. First of all, can you believe that it was that long ago? And what does it feel like now?
You know, it's funny because I don't really think about it. The only time I think about it when it's Olympic year, like, for example, in 2012, I missed the team by 9/100ths of a second, and I still went to go watch. I had some sponsor obligations out in London, and it was hard to watch. I thought I'd be okay with it, but it was not easy to see, my teammates out there knowing what they're going through and seeing the cheering going on, the camaraderie. It was tough.
I'm going to reveal something I said to you off camera. I'm going to say it on camera. When I saw you, I thought, oh, it's been 6 years. Maybe you picked up a fat cell or so, but you still look fabulous. How much do you work out now?
It's the lighting,
No, it's not the lighting, ladies and gentlemen. It's all real. How much do you still work out?
I don't feel like I work out a lot, maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours, but you have to remember that I came from doing like 5 or 6 hours a day. So it's very minimal for me, and I don't get stressed out if I miss a day. I'm lucky that I have good genes. I have some family members that we have the same body type, so a lot of it is genetic, but I do continue to work out.
It's more than just genetics. I mean, genetics don't get you 5 Olympics and 12 Olympic medals.
Maybe a little bit of hard work.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of hard work. I want to also talk about something else, and we're gonna get to what you came here to talk about, and that is the importance of swimming. But you know, you came back 15 months, I think it was, after having your first child, after having a baby. And if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but you broke your own record. This was at the national championship.
Right.
Right. How hard was it to come back after giving birth and all the stuff that happens to the body then?
Well, my first meet actually was 3 weeks after I delivered, so that was very tough. Just even getting in a swimsuit and seeing what I look like in a swimsuit after having a baby. But 15 months later, I was able to get my body back. I got in great shape. It's amazing what muscle memory does, even though I hadn't been in the sport for a while. And it was a great feeling to be back up there and not let people saying negative things about age affect me. You know, I really tried to, it was a learning experience. I tried to take the negative and turn it into positive when I was, you know, going through all that and getting back into training.
It's absolutely amazing in your accomplishments. I mean, I could spend the whole interview just going through all your accomplishments and how many times, I think it's 10 times you broke your own records in swimming.
Yeah, I don't even know. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, I think so. I read that somewhere. That's just amazing. You have your book out. Is it still out now?
It's still out. I have 2 books, Age is Just a Number and Gold Medal Fitness. So one's a memoir and one is pretty much what I went through to do the type of training I did, what I ate, and how I trained outside of the water too. So it's a fun book.
So this Gold Medal Fitness, it's a 5-week program to get in shape, but you're not saying that we can get in your kind of shape.
No, it will get you in the best shape that you can be. And you have to remember that I've been doing this my whole life, so this is why I look the way I look.
Is there any one thing that you would credit for not only your longevity in your athletic career, but also your success, to be so successful for so long? Is there any one thing you point to?
You know, I think just having the support I had from my family. You know, there were so many people that were saying negative things when I decided to make a comeback, first at 33 and then at 41 years old. And, you know, I always had my parents. They never pushed me hard. I had my family to support me, and that really goes a long way.
Yeah. The reason that you wanted to come talk to us, as opposed to why I want to talk to you, is this a very important initiative about getting kids involved in swimming. So let's start with, you'll tell us about the program along the way, but I was a little surprised when I found out that some of the research says that swimming is not as popular as other more, if you will, mainstream sports. Why is that?
You know, I'm not really sure. What happens is about 80% of the parents who have had their kids in swim lessons as children do not think of swimming as a sport when they're thinking about youth sports. And that's really too bad. I mean, swimming is fun. There's a lot of camaraderie. There's teamwork. You know, it's safe on your body. I have an 8-year-old, and I have her in swimming, and she also does lacrosse, and I get more scared when she does lacrosse. I think she's going to get hit by a stick or a ball or something go on. In swimming, there's really not many injuries in that sport, and she has a lot of fun. I think that parents don't realize how much fun it is. Like, I sit there and I watch my daughter in practice, trying not to go on the deck and tell the coaches what to do, but so I try to stay back and, you know, look through the window and watch her, and she's just always smiling, always having fun. And I think that parents don't realize how much fun swimming can actually be. And I'm an ambassador for Swim Today. There's a website called swimtoday.org that parents can go on and type their zip code in, and they can see some local clubs around them. And the biggest thing for me, I think, as a parent that you hate to see is going to an event and your child being on the sideline. And the great thing about swimming is you're always participating.
That is a good thing, and it is so important. I put my daughter in swim classes starting at 6 months old, because I think it's important for kids, A, not to be afraid of the water, and then B, to be a good, strong swimmer. So besides just learning to swim, talk about some of those benefits of swimming as a sport.
Well, you learn about time management. I think swimming's a very structured sport, and you know exactly what you're doing, how long it's going to take, and when you have your swim meets, and there's a lot of time management in it. I know for me personally, I learned hard work. I learned about dedication. I learned about sacrifices, and you don't realize that as a child. I think as a parent, you can see that happening, but I didn't realize it until I got older and saw how it trickled out into other aspects of my life. And I think that's very important when you're learning about a sport, how it affects you in other aspects of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Spend a little time, though, talking to her about, I think sometimes the socioeconomic disparities of who participates in swimming, because here's the reality. You can't participate in swimming as a sport if you don't have access to a pool.
Right.
Very often that's in a community that is wealthy enough to support a pool or someone that can join a club. So how do you address that?
It's unfortunate to see that. I mean, there should be pools in every community, and you should be able to, as a community, say, yes, all the kids in this community know how to swim, because it's that important. I know that as a mother, I had my daughter, like you said, in the pool at a very young age. She became water safe, maybe a little bit under 3 years old, and it's a comforting feeling knowing how many bodies of water there are around here. I think the biggest thing for a child is losing a toy in the pool and then going in and not knowing how to get back to the side of the pool. And so it'd be nice to see communities build pools so everyone can learn how to swim and not have it where, some people can learn and some can't.
If someone wants to learn more about this program that you're promoting, Swim Today, where can they find more information?
They can go to swimtoday.org, and all the information is on there, and all the places where they can go in their communities to learn how to swim and to be a part of a swim team program.
All right, 5-time Olympian, 12-time medalist at the Olympics, Dara Torres. So nice to meet you.
Thank you, Debbie. It's very nice to meet you, too.
In.
Thank you.
Take care. Just fantastic. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you tomorrow for another edition of Arise America. I'm Debbie Turner-Bell. Bye-bye.